Hi, I'm Tracy Pierce. Thanks for joining me for this series of free mini animal communications. This series was inspired by the events going on in the world with the coronavirus and everything happening. I was just really wondering what the animals were thinking about this whole situation. When the US started to go into lockdown, I was house sitting at somebody else's house, and so I was driving back and forth from my house to their house, and I was really curious what the animals thought about this whole situation. You know, suddenly the humans aren't out and about as much as they used to be, and I was just really curious what they wanted to say or share with us about that. So that's what this series is really all about. And if you're joining us live, if you're on Zoom, on the bottom bar there should be a box that says chat. So if you have a question for our animal friend today is Sasha Elizabeth. You can type it in there, or if you're joining us on Facebook, you can type your questions into the chat. So I'm gonna go ahead and share our animal friend's picture today. So this is Sasha Elizabeth, and I have talked with her, I think, one other time. She passed away, I think it's 3 years ago. And then there was another kitty that came to live at the human's house that actually looks quite a bit like this cat. But we're gonna connect in with Sasha Elizabeth today and just see what she wants to share with us and her point of view. And we do have Sasha Elizabeth's human with us here on Zoom too. So if she has any questions, you can anybody can type questions in, but it's always nice when the animal's human is able to join us as well. So I'm just going to take a moment and get quiet and start tuning into Sasha. As I start tuning into her, the thing that really comes forward first is I feel her as this big ball of fire. It makes me wonder if she's still in the afterlife or if she's reincarnated. We'll find out here in a minute. And I don't mean like physical fire necessarily. It feels more like spiritual fire. Like this cat is very fiery. Hi, Sasha. I wonder if you would like to tell us about yourself or what you're up to. This is really kind of an open forum for you to share whatever you'd like with our viewers. It very much feels to me like she's still in the spiritual world or in the afterlife. I get this feeling of there's a sort of sharpness there. It almost feels like this refinement kind of process that she's going through. Can you show me more about that, Sasha? Yeah, the impression I get, it's almost like the process a metal might go through, or even a diamond, where there's this processing, and like I keep feeling the fire again, the fire, and maybe like a compressing, like how a diamond would be formed. And there's this, it just feels like refinement process that's happening in Sasha's energy. It feels like a very this isn't something I often see with animals actually in the afterlife. It feels like there's something very special happening with Sasha. Sasha, can you tell us more? I'm really curious about what you're showing me. Feels like she's showing she's preparing for this next life. Like she's not even 100% sure what it is going to be, but it's going to require a higher level of she's showing it kind of like energetic integrity. Do you know what your next life is going to be like, Sasha? You said you don't. She says, no, I don't know the specifics, but she can tell. She's like, it's a big one. It's what she's showing. Do you know anything else about that? What it means that it's a big one? Feels like I'm coming to do something more important, like more, um, like she's showing like her work in this last life was more focused on this one family. And the next life is going to be something that touches a lot of people. Like I get this sense of a zoo, but you know, it might not be exactly a zoo that she's showing me, but something where there is a lot of contact, like multiple humans will have contact with her rather than just mainly being a family or a unit or one person. Is there more you want to share with us about that, Sasha? She's saying it's been a really intense process for her. Um, Sasha, what I'm seeing, it feels like what you're showing me is from the end of this last life that there was like you were just kind of ejected from that life and thrown into that processing of what's happening now. Is that accurate? Yeah, there's this sense of the last life ending kind of abruptly. And she's like, I was expecting that. It's not that that was unexpected. She's just showing how quickly, like, just sort of this ejection process out of her physical body. Let's see, I see a question popping up here. So your human Nancy, she would like to know if you chose them for a reason, chose the family you were living with before. Oh yes, she says. And she's showing I almost see like one of these little emoji hearts that comes up on Facebook. She's showing that in the center of her heart, and then it like goes out like from a string almost, and she's circling around the people in the household. I was holding them. Was there something specific you were working with them on, Sasha? She shows this sense of then like pulling that string tighter, like somehow her presence brought people closer together in the family. Like that was how she did it. I wrangled them. She's almost showing like a little cowboy with a lasso, like whoo, I wrangled them and then I pulled them in closer together. Was there something else or something more specific that you were working with this family on, Sasha? It really was a lot about bringing them closer together. Like she's showing herself as this centerpiece almost of the family that, yeah, it's so what she's showing is like herself in the center, and then it's like the other people were kind of further away, but then they kind of came in closer. Like she shows it looks more like a wheel that's evenly measured out from the sides there. Is there anything that you would like your former family that you're working with to know about how you left, or it doesn't have to be about that though, it could be about anything. I feel really good about my life with you guys, and even though there was kind of this abrupt, short, quick ending, she's very appreciative of the life that she had with you and feels like she did accomplish her mission of bringing people in the household together more closely through what she was doing. She does show this sense of kind of watching over the household yet. Um, it's almost like there's something of her energy that's still in the programming of the house a little bit, where, yeah, she's showing it's like this layer of my energy, she says, that I left behind in the energy of the house. So if you're feeling me around, I did that on purpose so that you could feel me, you could tune into me when you wanted to, and really know I was still there and watching. Like she shows, it's almost like, okay, here's the house, and then she's above watching down on the house. Yeah, she's saying it's not that I interfere with anything that's happening, or, it's not that I'm doing anything necessarily. It's more like a holding of the house. Like you can feel my presence, my energy holding the house still. So we got a question from Kim, Sasha. She's wondering, is that bringing together of people part of what you're planning to do in this next big life? She says, well, it's not so much bringing people together as spreading the information. It's actually kind of the opposite, where I was like bringing things together before. I'm actually spreading things out in this next life. And that's what it's going to be more about for me. She's showing it. It's not that, yeah, it's almost exactly the opposite is what she's saying, but it's accomplishing a similar thing. So she's like, I'm aware of the paradox there, but it's like a different, she's showing me like there's 3 doors, and you could pick any of the doors. They actually go into the same place to accomplish the same thing. It's just, this door might be unlocked, whereas this one is like a little stuck or something. You have to pick the right door that people are ready to go through, is what Sasha says. Okay, Sasha, so Nancy's wondering, do you have any suggestions for the new cat who lives with them, whose name's Sashi? Sasha says, I like her. There's a sense of, what Sasha is saying is that Sashi is sent to, it's almost like help keep them on their toes a little bit more. Could you say more about that? Well, Sashi has different abilities and disabilities, is what she says. Sashi is a very special cat. Like I have talked with Sashi before, and Sasha's showing she has this kind of electricness in her energy that sometimes is a little, I hear the word off-putting. Do you feel like there's anything they could do to help Sashi or get along with her better? I know they've had some behavioral issues with her in the past. That cat needs a lot of patience, is what Sasha says. She's saying that even though we look really similar, we're actually very different cats. Sasha is happy that you changed Sashi's name. So for our viewers, the second cat was also named Sasha and had requested that her name be changed. She didn't want to be completely associated with this Sasha that we're talking to now who had passed. So we're calling the second cat Sashi instead. Sasha is very, very much approves of that kind of separation of their energies and suggests, understands that Sashi, in your minds may have kind of been a replacement for her, but she is a very different cat and wants you to treat her. Show that again, please. Yeah, to not treat Sashi the same as they have treated Sasha. It's very important to realize we're different cats, is what Sasha says. Sasha does feel like Sashi is really good for your family. Like I see she's showing like people kind of tripping. She's like, Sashi presents these new challenges for you that maybe you weren't hoping for or expecting, but there is something really to learn from Sashi. Do you feel like you want to talk about how Sashi can help them or how they might be able to interact, more specifically in different ways? Yeah, I don't feel any specific suggestions coming forward. Sasha, is there anything else that you want to say about the new kitty? She's just reiterating, I think she's good for you. Okay. Challenging, but good for you, is what Sasha says. Keep loving her. Sasha says that Sashi really needs to feel the heart connection. Like she says that Sashi isn't, she may not want to be brushed or pet as much as I liked to, but if you can really be in your heart when you're around Sashi, that she can really pick up on that and feel that. And that's part of what she really needs to interact with you on a higher level. That's what Sasha's saying. Thanks. Okay. So we have another question from Nancy. She wants to know, Sasha, did you suffer for a long time before she came home? And I think she means before you passed away, before this incident that happened like 3 years ago. I do feel a little bit of struggling. And what she keeps showing is almost like this time condensing, is that the right word? Condensing time. So she's showing, yeah, I was struggling, but it felt like things like time took on a different meaning. So she's saying, did I suffer for a long time? It didn't feel like a long time, like there was some struggling, but it wasn't, it didn't feel like a long time to her, is what she said. Like she felt like she knew what was happening. There's this sense of like vision getting smaller and closing in on her, but she said that she just didn't, it didn't feel like a long time to her, is what she says. And she's also saying, yeah, I struggled and there was some uncomfortability, but I have a different view of my physical body. Like Sasha says, I knew I was leaving at this time. And so there was sort of a bit of a disconnect from the physical body, is what she's saying. She's like, yeah, you may have seen my physical body struggling and seemed like it was in pain, but she's showing like her spirit was more above at that time. And so it wasn't like, as I tune into her, I don't feel massive amounts of pain that she was going through. And she's not indicating that. She says she was separate from it by the time you got there, by the time things started to really go downhill. All right, so I'm checking for any last questions for Sasha. Kind of getting close to the end of our time here, but just want to see if anything else, any other questions. Sasha, is there anything else that you would like to be sure and share with the world? I know I kind of started these as a response to the coronavirus. Do you have any thoughts about that? Yeah, she says, I'm very much like it's a cat. Yeah, it was a cat I talked to yesterday. She's like, I don't care. Sasha is showing herself like she's not physically incarnated right now. And so the coronavirus is not something I mean, she's aware of it, but she doesn't really care. Yeah. All right, Sasha, thank you so much. Let's see. So we have one more. I'm going to take one more question from Kim, Sasha. Is it a common experience that you described with other pets crossing that we may think they are suffering? So I think, Sasha, what she's saying is, do humans often think that the animals are suffering more than they are when they're passing? She says it varies from animal to animal. She says, I'm very good at dying. She says, I've had lots of practice at it. I have like, I've been doing this. I've been through lots of incarnations and I know how to separate myself out. And she feels like not all animals are as practiced or experienced at that as she is. But we do have a very different view on death than humans in general. She says some animals do suffer and struggle more than others, and it might be like they're showing like all these emotional impressions in their energy. Like if they've been really harmed or had a really hard life, that it can be more of a struggle for them in the end, is what she's saying. Yeah, and she's also saying that, there's a difference between pain and suffering. Like, yeah, we can feel pain, but not necessarily be suffering. Like she's yeah, she's really showing like suffering as something that it's an emotional thing that we can get pulled into. And once we kind of click into it, it can make things worse, is what she's showing. So, yeah, she's like, I don't really have time to go into the full details of the difference between pain and suffering, but it is something to be aware of. And she is showing like animals or humans that, if they feel that it's time for their pet to be euthanized, that actually that euthanization can be softened by the animal owner really being there, being with them, that sometimes they think it's going to be too much for them to handle. And maybe it is, and maybe in some cases it is too much for the human to be there, but it can really help ease any suffering that the animal might be feeling if the human can be with them at the time of the euthanization and really hold a big, I feel like my belly really come online. It feels kind of like this mothering position, holding softness, loving. So even though it's hard for you, there may be a way that humans can hold their energy differently as a pet is going through euthanization that makes it a bit easier for them. Thank you, Sasha. Is there anything else you want to share about that, or anything else before we end today? She really wants pet owners to understand that, the animals, the pets that come in to live with you, they understand that they're not going to be with you for your whole life. They understand it may only be 10, maybe 20 years. And they're prepared to leave. They're ready, like they come to do their mission. And she understands that grief can be really, really big. But grief doesn't have to equate to massive amounts of suffering, is what Sasha says, there can be a real beauty way of letting go, and when it comes to death and dying of the animals, of your pets. She really likes when people have a ceremony or a ritual or some kind of a funeral, you know, maybe like a memorial for their pets. She says pets are very important in human families. Like, we've evolved over thousands of years to live with you, and we are really part of your family. And she really appreciates it when humans treat their animals that way. It's really beautiful. Thank you, Sasha. So we're coming to our end of our time here today. And thank you so much for everybody who joined us here live. It's great to get your questions. I am planning to do these little mini animal communication sessions through the end of April, for as long as we're probably going to be on lockdown here in Colorado. So if this is something that interests you, you have an animal friend, it could be a wild animal that hangs around your neighborhood, it could be a domestic animal, your own domestic animal. If you feel like they would like to share some of their wisdom with the world, go ahead and send me a message, including their picture, name, and age, and we'll see if we can't get them into the rotation before the end of April here. So again, thanks so much for joining me here live, and until next time, take care and be well.